sports fans, and welcome back to another edition of Foul Territory. I'm your host, Mike Smith. Got another great show for you today. We're going to be focusing on the draft. The draft took place on March 3rd, and honestly, it's one of my favorite days of the year, aside from opening day. It's a chance to kind of see some new talent, talk to some old managers, maybe talk a little trash, getting ready for the season. It was definitely cold out there at Taft. We got some snow flurries, but I think everyone got through the tryout without tearing a hamstring or their labrum, so that's definitely a positive. Now, from what I saw, and I wasn't really there, scouting, I didn't see really that one superstar that we've seen in years past. Like last year with Mike Pena, who's a kid who showed up and immediately kind of, every manager wanted to get at him. But I think that there was definitely a couple of guys there who can really be key contributors to teams on both the AA and single A level. We'll be talking with one of them, John Simpkins, a little bit later. But up first, making his second appearance on the podcast, help me out on short notice, is New York Express manager Dan Trotta. And Dan, how's it going?
It's going great.
Now, I mean, obviously being a longtime manager in this league, I'm sure you've seen the draft through its many phases. A couple years back, it used to be an indoor draft. In your estimation, how do those two rank? Just seeing the guys in the cages and then getting out on the field and seeing a chance to, see them play a little bit of defense.
Clearly, the defense is the big part. I mean, the pitching and the hitting, not too much of a difference between indoor and outdoor. But if you're looking for somebody who can field as well, it's also just so much more fun. I had a lot of fun yesterday getting out on an outdoor field for the first time this year. And I think a lot of the guys participating did as well.
Now, in your years in the league, has the draft, I know that you weren't really looking for guys yesterday, but has the draft been a place where you've picked up talent or you've seen some guys, really difference makers kind of emerge from that draft process?
Just so we're clear, yesterday I was strictly helping out. Yeah. I'm not looking for players, and so I wasn't scouting guys yesterday. To be honest, I haven't had much luck with the draft. I did go a couple of years ago and found it sort of a bust. But then the next year, I think it was the Storm picked up Willie Garcia, who turned out to be one of the better hitters in the league. And then last year I had an interesting experience because I wasn't managing last year. I only played, and I went to participate in the draft. And I think a lot of guys there saw Mike Pena as a great pitcher. But I think those are really the exception rather than the rule. Not to say that you can't look for some role players or guys to fill out some positions that you're looking for, but it's generally not a place for elite talent. There were a couple of guys yesterday I thought looked okay, but I wouldn't have said that there's any all-stars there necessarily.
Well, I mean, the Pena was an interesting thing because it was apparent, right from when he started warming up that this kid had a great baseball body and a good arm, and you knew he was going to be a difference maker. But with the pitchers, where I think that most managers would say that they're really looking for a pitcher. There was one guy that stood out. I actually, I'll be talking to him a little bit later. This lefty, John Simpkins, who doesn't look like a Mike Pena in terms of being that guy who's gonna win you 8 games on his own, but he actually reminded me a lot of one of my own players, Quinn Duffy, another lefty pitcher who has been an all-star in this league before. So if there were teams looking for pitching help at the draft, I think that this guy, a crafty left-hander, is somebody who's going to prove to be a good pickup. But now I wanted to ask about being in the draft last year as a player. Now most guys know you throughout the league, but what do you think the mindset is of someone who's just coming? And doesn't know anybody, doesn't really know what's going on? Do you think it could be a little bit intimidating knowing that you only have, 7 to 10 swings to kind of make an impression?
Absolutely. I was nervous last year, and I thought I had already gone down to Mexico for my own personal spring training. I was in pretty good baseball shape. I knew a lot of the guys. I know Taft. I was comfortable in the setting. And so I thought I was going to go up there and start ripping the ball. But as soon as I stepped into the batter's box, all of a sudden I felt pressure, and it was like my throat was clenching, and I started fouling balls back, and it was not easy. So I have sympathy for the guys in that position, and I think if you're looking for a player, maybe not necessarily judge it by how many line drives he hits, but you kind of have to look at his swing. It's tough to judge bat speed, but you're trying to look at his swing, his athleticism, and if the pitcher with his windup, his motion. But also then, which if you can get a chance to talk to the player and see what kind of character he has. But yeah, I definitely sympathize with the guys out there who really want to play and find a team and found themselves being displayed like a piece of meat.
Well, that kind of brings me. There was one guy yesterday, and I don't have his name in front of me. He was a catcher, and I think he took his first 2 swings and he broke his bat in BP, which is probably not a good sign. It's enough to rattle someone, but he came out later and was just roping balls all around the field, and I think that he was able to shake off that early rust. And
was that the left-handed hitter?
Yeah, the left-handed catcher.
Yeah, boy, I thought he looked good. The ball sounded great off of his bat, and he was a good-looking catcher too. There was another catcher there, a big kid, a right-handed hitter. I thought looked okay. Those would have been actually. Those could be impact players. Those could be guys. If you went there looking for a catcher, would definitely be high on your list.
Well, them and the other kid that kind of caught my eye was Mike Fernandez, second baseman, another left-handed hitter. But I mean, he was really stroking the ball, and he looked pretty smooth in the field. And one of the things about him, he was there at the draft with his cousin. And his cousin was probably the best fielding outfielder there, too. So you pick up those 2 guys, I think that can really turn your fortunes around, especially if you need some help in center or second base. But, those guys, along with that left-handed pitcher, those were the guys that I really thought stood out. And I think that, you kind of saw that with the managers kind of congregating around them, after everything was done.
The other thing about these drafts is, you can't let first appearances fool you. I think a lot of guys were snickering when they saw this one kid come up there in his Levi's, and then he had a very nice-looking left-handed stroke and started hitting line drives all over the place. So you really, can't let your prejudices get in the way on something like this if you're looking for talent.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because I was talking with another manager, and he said, one of the things that he looks for first, if the guy's wearing shoes instead of cleats, he automatically kind of disqualifies him for that list, and then the kid that you're talking about stepped up to the plate, and I think he really turned some heads with that hitting display he put on.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't know what their financial situation is, or if they heard about it at the last minute. I granted those would be some things. I want a ball player who comes ready to play, but you never know. You have to be open to certain possibilities.
And when you were at the draft as a player, I know we did it a little bit differently last year, but with the managers approaching you afterwards, how did that work, and what was it like being on the kind of the other end of that?
Well, I should say that I was going after the managers that time and looking for a team. It wasn't exactly like they were lining up at my spot, but it was clear, like with Pena, that everybody was just all over him. I mean, like white on rice. And I think it probably was not the best way. That said, I think the league last year was trying to do it better than the years before, when it was actually a draft, and you would be drafted by a team, and the player then would have no control over which team he wanted to play for. And I think this arrangement is better. I think it's really we're free agents trying out, and you're looking for the right fit with another team in terms of personality, position, geography. So yes, it was an improvement this year, but last year was certainly an improvement over the draft system of before.
And finally, just kind of keeping on with that idea, looking at the way the draft was run this year, do you have any ideas, ways to tweak it moving forward so that we can maybe get a better look at the guys that show up to play?
I couldn't really say that there's much room for improvement. I mean, obviously, you just more time, but who really wants to be there all day? The only way to would be is if you were in a hitting cage facility to get more hitters through and then move outdoors, but that's not really practical. I think we're on the right track, and for obviously it's disappointing for a lot of those guys who aren't going to catch on with somebody, but if they have enough perseverance and talent, they'll find a team.
Great. Well, Dan, thanks for stopping by again. I appreciate you coming in on short notice, and I wish you guys the best of luck this year.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Love the show.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Again, my thanks to Dan Trotta. Dan from the New York Express was on hand to help out with the draft yesterday, hitting fungos and helping to make sure everything ran smoothly. Now I want to switch gears and talk to somebody who was on the other side of the tryout process. John Simpkins is a pitcher from MacArthur University, a lefty, and he was a guy that was kind of generating a lot of buzz at the tryout. So let's bring him on right now. John, how's it going, man?
Good.
So now you've been in New York for a couple of years. You've been out of the organized men's baseball arena. What kind of got you back into it? What made you decide to come out the other day?
It's one of those things where you go to Central Park in the summer, and you see some guys playing, and a guy like me who played since he was 4 years old, you just see that and you kind of just want to play again. So, I'd play for fun sometimes, but I missed that competitiveness. So coming out yesterday was great to see a lot of guys and get back into it a little bit.
And how did you find out about our league in particular? Was it online through a friend? What kind of directed you into us?
So I searched online, just for men's league baseball, New York City, and this was the first website that came up, and definitely looked like it was structured and with all the statistics and photos. I thought that was great. So that's what brought me to it.
So did you send out an email to find out about the draft? How'd you find out about the fact that there was a player draft?
So I saw that there was a free agency sign up, and it was January at the time, and I was kind of thinking about New Year's resolutions, and decided to put in my name on the free agency list. Wasn't sure what was going to happen with that. Never I didn't get anything back about it, but then I received the email on Friday.
So kind of short notice. I mean, did you feel that your body was prepared to go out and throw a couple pitches?
I mean, it was. I think I tried to stay in shape just in case that day came. So I threw a little bit before coming out, but it was definitely going to be a question of whether my body was ready. And as we know, yesterday was a pretty chilly day, so I think everybody was kind of struggling with the warming up than resting. But overall, it still went well.
Now, there was a lot of managers that seemed interested after watching you throw. What were some of the things that you were looking for from a team coming in, and what was that interaction with the managers like afterwards?
When I showed up, I kind of was in the mentality that I was just excited to be there, just to play some baseball, throw a ball around, and just be in that environment. And then afterwards, talking to some of the coaches, I decided maybe I should think this through a little bit more, and depending on where I live, of course that's somewhat important. Then maybe some of the past standings of the teams and how they did last year, and then also team chemistry is it's probably the most important thing. So I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple teams, and I think that that's probably the biggest selling point for me is are the guys on the team good guys that like to play ball. So and it sounds like every one of these teams has guys like that. You wouldn't play in this league unless you were into it.
And we're always trying to better the tryout and draft process. From a potential draftee, I guess. Was there anything that you felt that you didn't get the chance to do or show at the tryout?
I think obviously that having a bunch of guys, about 60 guys, come out all at once and trying to get all of the coaches there at the same time it's a big logistical to do. So I think it was handled very well, considering the fact that you need to have all the coaches see one guy hit in order to make that efficient. So it would be nice to have a little bit more breakout and development of skills, either like some base running or maybe some more integrated hitting, but due to the circumstances of how many people show up and everybody's busy, so I think it was handled well.
Well, John, I thank you for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck in finding a team, and I hope to see you out there this spring and summer.
Thank you very much, Mike.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Well, that just about does it for this edition of Foul Territory. Had a great time. Hope you did too. Next time, hopefully, we'll have some new guests. But until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and keep it between the lines.